We're headed east out of Denver on Interstate 70. We're on our way to the small town of Bethune, Colorado. It's the birthplace and hometown of Denver Pyle, the character actor that Hollywood calls one of their best. As a character actor, appearing in more than 140 TV shows, everything from Gunsmoke to Perry Mason. He played in over 100 movies, mostly westerns. It was 1979 when he reached world stardom in his own right, as Uncle Jesse Duke in the hit TV show The Dukes of Hazzard. Denver Dale Pyle was born May 11th, 1920, on a farm outside of Bethune, Colorado. Denver, who was named after the state capital, was the youngest of 3 children that belonged to Benjamin and Maud Acton Pyle. Denver's parents, Ben and Maud, were married in Kansas, where their first child was born, a daughter, on the 13th of April, 1913. They named her Farrell Lorraine Pyle. The family nicknamed her Skippy. The next year, on September the 3rd, 1914, Willis Acton Pyle was born. Ben, their father, had heard that there were homestead land in Colorado, so he left Kansas by horseback. He built a sod hut on homestead farmland just outside the small farming and ranching community of Bethune. Soon his wife and children joined him. And in a few years, their third child, Denver Dale Pyle, was born. Eventually, the family will move into town, where Skippy will graduate from Bethune High School. Willis will finish the 11th grade, and Denver will finish the 8th. Skippy wanted to move to Boulder and get work and maybe even attend college. Willis and Denver decided to go with her. They rented a large room where they could cook their own meals. And the first year went good. Denver worked at a grocery store and attended school. Willis was working at J.C. Penney's and finished high school. Skippy was working and also attended college at the Colorado State University. The second year, money was scarce, and the kids needed help, and that's when their mother moved to Boulder and rented a large house that she turned into a boarding house and rented rooms to college students. After their mother arrived, Denver said, things got a lot better. Even Denver's Aunt Bunny came to Boulder to help with the boarding house. It was located at 1002 University Avenue. And in 1937, Willis, while walking to art class, spotted a poster from Walt Disney advertising for cartoon animators. Willis sent in some of his drawings, and 5 weeks later, to everyone's surprise, Disney sent him an invitation to come to Hollywood and enter his apprentice program. This led to a lifelong career with Disney. Willis Pyle was the Disney animator for Pinocchio, Bambi, Fantasia, and many other Disney characters. Willis started drawing pictures at a very young age, and even had his first drawing hanging in Coral's Cafe in Bethune as a youngster. After receiving the Disney invitation, he quickly moved to California and found an apartment within walking distance, he said, to the Disney studios. Skippy by this time was teaching school, which she didn't like, and gave up her teaching job to move to Hollywood, close to her brother, and she went to work for Benton and Bowles Advertising Agency. Denver stayed in Boulder and attended Colorado State University to become a lawyer. The 1940 census shows Ben, Maud, and Denver living together in Boulder. But after 2 years, he had decided that he had enough of college and wanted to pursue a new career as a drummer with a local band. But after things weren't exactly what he expected, he went to work in the Oklahoma oil fields. After a couple years of what Denver called his bumming around years, he ended up going to California to visit Willis and Skippy and working as a page for NBC. It was a job that he got through a friend of his sister Skippy. According to several newspaper articles, during World War II, Denver, while serving in the Navy, was wounded during the Battle of Guadalcanal and was discharged after a long recuperation. Returning to Los Angeles, he found a job working at an aircraft factory. That's where he met a friend who was interested in the community theater and encouraged Denver to come and get involved. For the next few years, Pyle will have minor parts in several local plays while supporting himself by waiting on tables. He will attend acting school and eventually be spotted by a studio talent scout from Columbia Pictures. It was 1947 before Denver actually landed a small unaccredited part in his first movie, The Guilt of Janet Ames. It starred Rosalind Russell and Melvin Douglas. The next year, in 1948, it'll be The Man from Colorado, with Glenn Ford and William Holden. During the filming, Denver will meet his lifelong friend-to-be, Edgar Buchanan. Although Pyle was still a bit part unaccredited actor, and Buchanan was a major character star, the two became immediate friends. In 1949, Denver appeared in 6 different movies, one of which was Streets of San Francisco with Robert Armstrong and Mae Clark. The next year he was in 5 more movies, including The Old Frontier, that starred cowboy actor Monty Hale. In 1951, Pyle will be in 3 movies and 14 episodes of TV's The Range Rider from 1951 until 1953. Range Rider starred Jack Mahoney and Dick West. Also 7 episodes, he'll appear in The Lone Ranger starring Clayton Moore and Jay Silverheels. Denver will be in 6 movies in 1952, one of which is Oklahoma Annie, that stars comedian Judy Canova and John Russell. Russell will later have his own weekly TV series called The Lawman. Pyle will also appear on several episodes of The Roy Rogers Show. In 1954, Denver appeared in 6 movies, all unaccredited, except for Ride Clear of Diablo with Audie Murphy and Dan Duray. The next year, in 1955, there will be 5 movies, including To Hell and Back, the true story of Audie Murphy's World War II exploits. Up until then, Denver had been a part-time actor, but things changed when he got the part of Ben Thompson on the weekly television series The Life and Legend of Wyatt Earp. It starred Hugh O'Brien. The series lasted until 1961, and the Wyatt Earp series started actually 3 days before Gunsmoke did. Pyle will also appear in 8 episodes of Gunsmoke. Along this time, Denver falls in love, and on the 8th of August, 1955, 1 month before Wyatt Earp's series began, Denver Dale Pyle marries Mary Lee Carpenter, a production assistant at 20th Century Fox. Mary Lee took a great interest in Denver's acting roles, and Denver always gave her credit for furthering his career. The next year, in 1956, Denver and Mary Lee will have their first child, a boy, David. In later life, David will become involved in the educational system as Chief Executive Officer of American Career College and Executive Chairman of the Board of West Coast University. He was also a proud Chief Petty Officer in the United States Navy. A year later, the couple will have a second son, Tony. In later life, following his father into show business as an actor, writer, and producer, he has been recognized for his successful voiceover work. In 1958, 1 year after Tony's birth, Denver played Deputy Bob Olinger, that is killed by Billy the Kid, played by Paul Newman, in The Left-Handed Gun. During filming, Pyle met fellow actor James Best, who will become his best friend and co-star with him 20 years later in The Dukes of Hazzard. The next year he'll make another friend on the set of The Horse Soldier, John Wayne. He'll be asked to appear in Wayne's epic movie, The Alamo, in 1960. 2 years later, in 1962, he had a small role in The Man Who Shot Liberty Valance with John Wayne, Jimmy Stewart, and Lee Marvin. Denver played Amos Carruthers, father of Herbert Carruthers, that was played by O.Z. Whitehead. Although O.Z. played the son of Denver, he was actually 10 years older than Denver. And during the same period that Denver was appearing in The Alamo and Liberty Valance, he was playing as Briscoe Darling on the Andy Griffith TV show. Briscoe was the patriarch of the Darling family. Briscoe's sons, who sang and played the hillbilly music, was actually a real country band called the Dillards. And his daughter Charlene was actress Maggie Peterson. In 1965, it was Shenandoah, with a cast of famous actors such as James Stewart and Catherine Ross. Denver played the local preacher, and his best friend James Best played a Confederate soldier. 2 years later, in 1967, Denver played the part of an ex-Texas Ranger, Frank Hammer, in Bonnie and Clyde. It'll be one of his better roles, as he chases down outlaws Bunny Parker and Clyde Barrow that starred Warren Beatty and Faye Dunaway. Also in 1967, Pyle became Grandpa Mordecai Tarrington in Tammy and the Millionaire. The Doris Day Show started in 1968. Denver won the part of Buck Webb, playing Doris Day's father. He will continue in the part until 1970. Although he played as Doris's dad, he was only 2 years older than she was. Denver said he based his character, Buck Webb, on his own father, who had tremendous dignity. In 1970, after 15 years of marriage, Marilee and Denver Pyle divorced. Marilee will continue assisting Denver with his career for years, even until his death. She will be a loving single mom and grandmother. She will pass away on January the 2nd, 2010, with friends and family close by. She was 85 years old. Also on the 2nd of October 1970, Denver will lose his father Benjamin at the age of 82. 3 years after his father's death, in 1973, Denver will appear in Cahill, U.S. Marshal, with John Wayne and George Kennedy. In 1978, it'll be another TV series, The Life and Times of Grizzly Adams, starring Dan Haggerty. Denver will play an old mountain man trader named Mad Jack that often appears with his mule, number 7. The next year, in 1979, Denver will become world famous as Uncle Jesse Duke in the hit TV series The Dukes of Hazzard. The series will continue until 1985 with 146 episodes. Tom Wopat and John Snyder will play Luke and Bo Duke, nephews of Uncle Jake. Catherine Bash will play Daisy Duke, Uncle Jesse's niece. A friend of the Dukes was Cooter, played by Ben Jones. Sorrel Brooks will play the shifty Boss Hogg, and Denver's best friend, James Best, will play the part of Hazard County Sheriff Roscoe P. Coltrane. The series was only scheduled for 8 episodes when it unexpectedly became a hit. 13 years after his divorce from Marilee, Denver will meet and marry Tippy Johnson on November the 5th, 1983. Tippy and Denver will remain married until his death. In 1985, when the Dukes of Hazzard ended, Pyle began to slow down and pick the parts that he loved doing. During his later career, Denver said that he was recognized as Uncle Jesse wherever he went. I don't mind if everyone sees me as Uncle Jesse, an honorable man who stands for all the old virtues. In later life, Denver played mostly cameo roles and retired from full-time acting. His last movie role was Maverick in 1994 that starred Mel Gibson and Jodie Foster and featured James Garner. Denver was perfect as the old riverboat gambler that was caught cheating at cards and jumped off the riverboat instead of waiting to be thrown off. In April 1997, Denver will reprise his role as Uncle Jesse in the Dukes of Hazzard reunion. Pyle had recently been diagnosed with lung cancer, and the cast was concerned about his health. Denver said at the time that he was taking chemotherapy and had lost his hair and beard. He stated on one occasion he had had a treatment and returned to work a few hours later. Half the time, he said, I didn't even know where I was. But somehow I made it through. That same year, on the 13th of June, Denver will lose his 104-year-old mother, Maud Acton Pyle. 6 months later, on December the 2nd, although very weak and suffering from cancer, Denver Pyle, along with his wife Tippi, will attend the ceremony to dedicate his star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame, located at 7083 Hollywood Boulevard. Although weak, he will attempt to speak and reminisce about the first time seeing the stars on the Walk of Fame. He said his brother Willis told him, "One day you'll be a part of this street with a star of your own." On December the 25th, Christmas Day, 1997, less than 2 weeks after Denver Pyle received a star on the Walk of Fame, he'll pass away from lung cancer at the Providence St. Joseph Medical Center in Burbank. He was buried in an unmarked grave close to his wife Tippi's parents, J.T. and Aaron Johnson. Denver Dale Pyle was 77 years old.